And even now, in the last 2 or 3 years, I've had conversations with partners where I've gone, look, like, we don't want to raise the price of the event to penalize the runner because it's already expensive. We want you to invest in what we do so we can grow the experience for the community, for the runner. And ultimately, then we're all more successful in this whole endeavor, really.
Welcome to Long Run Labs, a weekly podcast from the team behind For the Long Run, telling the stories of those running the outdoor industry where endurance and entrepreneurship meet. This episode is sponsored by Superaffiliate, the affiliate platform I keep coming back to, and for good reason. I've seen just about every affiliate tool out there, both as a creator and on the brand side, and honestly, most of them are clunky, overpriced, and way too complicated. Superaffiliate is the opposite. Setup is simple, tracking is seamless, and payouts actually make sense. It just works. If you're a brand that wants to grow through partnerships, Superaffiliate makes it easy to get your affiliates and partners excited and engaged. Think co-branded landing pages featuring their own content, flexible rewards like cash, credit, or gifts, all designed to actually move the needle. So if you're tired of wasting time and money on platforms that don't deliver, head to superaffiliate.com. Tell them I sent you, and you'll get your first month free. All right, we are live in Lake Tahoe with Stuart McConnachie.
That's it.
Did I get that right?
Yeah, you did, yeah.
All right, race director of Ultra-Trail Cape Town.
Yep.
Thanks for taking some time to chat.
Thank you. No, thanks for having me.
Of course.
Yeah.
The first question is always a tough one, and that question is, who is Stuart?
I was born and raised in Cape Town. Ran as a kid quite a lot. Pretty much loved the outdoors. I've got a 12-year-old son. I'm not married, but I got a good relationship with his mother. And I guess I found my niche when I started UTCT. Yeah, and I've loved it ever since.
So it's taken a lot, I'm sure, to go from getting into running to being the race director and owner of a race like Ultra-Trail Cape Town. How did running enter your life?
Initially I was exposed to it through my dad and uncles who all ran Two Oceans Marathon, which is quite a big road ultra in Cape Town, and the various marathons that happen around that. So I always remember the smell of deep heat, the taste of Pepsi, and corn syrup they used to have kind of around.
What was the first thing you said?
Deep heat.
What's that?
Like a heat rub.
Got it.
You know, that menthol
Yeah.
smell. So yeah, those were kind of early days. And then my heroes were the guys who won those races. There were various different people across the country were able to run those. So yeah, I guess that was it. And then I started running cross country very young at school, and I was pretty good at it. So I guess that was the formative years.
And we're a few years after that, maybe.
Yeah.
If you started running, a few decades ago. So what did that evolution look like? And at some point you go beyond the marathon distance. You referenced some of the popular races in Cape Town, around Cape Town, South Africa. When did you sign up for your first ultra, and what brought you into that scene? Or what physically, how did that evolution happen?
Yeah. So it's interesting because I kind of lost the love of running as I got to high school. The individualness and the pressure to win. We don't have like a strong team element back home, and I think that's something that we lack. The college system, like we spoke about, and the high school system, it just seems so, like from an outsider's perspective, it builds the drive to perform, but it's also, there's that team element.
The structure,
the structure,
support.
And the support. The pressure's not always on the one individual to kind of win. And so I kind of drifted into your classic mainstream team sports. And then
Which are what in South Africa?
Cricket, rugby, cricket in the summer, rugby in the winter. And then I've kind of tried to play professional cricket after school, got disillusioned with professional sport through sports administrators, etc. And then I actually came to the States and kind of threw in the towel with everything. And
lived in Boulder, right?
lived in Boulder, yeah. I lived in Boulder, lived in Vail, had some really amazing experiences. And I think one of the big takeaways and the learnings for me in that kind of cliched style of university of life was the American confidence, the desire to kind of do whatever you want to do and succeed at it. I'd come from a background of lawyers and etc. So it was like, oh, you need to be that to be somebody. And so I really got that self-belief or that belief in myself here often through friends, American friends, elder guys. We played in the rugby club. And I kind of took that home and started to look for my, I guess, niche in the world, like where did I fit in? It was definitely going to be outdoors. So I drifted into cycling. I did the Cape Epic a few times, but I needed a job, and that was obviously working in a retail store. And then I kind of got to a crossroads in life where I was doing triathlon, I was doing trail, I was riding mountain bikes, but the running was always in the background, and it was kind of calling. And I had quite a big health scare in 2012 into 2013, and same time as like my kid was born. So it was really like a shift in my life. And I then kind of decided that I needed to step away from the retail environment, which was quite time intensive. And at that time, that was kind of when the UTCT desire, because there were races in South Africa that were 100 Ks, but there was nothing in the trail space that had really elevated itself to like what the Cape Epic did, and we felt that was an opportunity, especially with Table Mountain on our doorstep, and we then kind of went hard for that.
And so you had run ultras prior to creating the race?
Yeah. So I'd done a few ultras. A lot of the races around, like the local races, were only up to like 50 Ks, and it was very much a small niche. No route markers. Checkpoints where you clipped your bib, and that kind of vibe. And so it was really like formative. A lot of the running that was done on the mountain was like recreational almost, because everyone was focused on road, whether it was Two Oceans or building up towards Comrades. Like even now to this day in South Africa, like probably 80% of the runners are looking at their calendar and going, okay, in June, I'm going to run Comrades. So how does that work? Run a marathon here, qualify, do this. And we want to kind of change that narrative, really. And I think we after 10 years, now 11, we're definitely starting to make an impact, yeah.
So what did you do first when you decided you wanted to create a race?
A friend of mine actually, he was in Hong Kong, and they had Nick, who's the kind of founder, he was in Hong Kong, and they had 400K races in Hong Kong. And we traditionally kind of see things happening 3, 4, 5 years later back home, because it's like a little bit slower.
With Hong Kong as the point of reference? Or?
Hong Kong, yeah, because they had like 400K races all selling out. We were like, shit, man, like how can we not have something here? Yeah. And that was pretty much the light bulb moment. And then it was just a case of, okay, well, trying to get the park, and Nick was really formative in this space. It was driving to get the route and get the park to allow us to run. They said you can run, but they said you can't run at night. So we had a really tricky kind of route, that we had to make up, but also we only had 15 hours, and the course is tough. So it was looking at, like, if you look at a normal field of runners, you're probably only going to get 30% of the field to finish in that 15 hours. So we were like up against it, but we just said, look, as long as we show them over time that we can do this, eventually
they'll let you do it.
They'll let us do it through the night. And that only actually happened after COVID. And at that exact moment, we left the meeting after they said, right, you can have 24 hours. We left the meeting and we basically got into the car park, and we were like, should we go back and ask for a miler? And we were like, we might as well. And we walked back in and said, hey, can we do a miler? And they were like,
what's a miler?
Yeah.
What's a miler?
100 miles.
100 miles. Yeah.
100 miler, like because that would involve like a whole lot more of the
Sure.
park and a lot more work for us. But we just were like, this is an opportunity.
Right.
We better take it. And I don't think they actually knew what it entailed, but we kept it very low key, obviously, and they said yes, and that was it.
So talk to me about the structure, and I have to imagine it's expensive to put on a race.
Yeah.
And what did year one look like? And were there sponsors involved that were helping to offset the costs, or was it produced by race entry fees?
Yeah.
What did that look like?
We had 2 sponsors, Hisense, like audio stuff, and then Ultra, the shoes. And that was very minimal. They gave us a bit of cash. But what the plan was always to build the race off entries and put all of the money into building the race. And actually, we have to thank, our folks basically, because every year we would probably go around 250,000, 300,000 over. And we'd
From an expense standpoint.
Yeah, from an expense standpoint, borrow the money and then pay it back when entries open. So it was this kind of like...
As you were growing?
As we were going, yeah. And at that time, I'd quit my job at the cycle shop, and I had a kid, and so I just started doing, like, I coached a bit of Pilates, and I coached a bit of this, and I did odd jobs, and I moved back with my folks because I needed support with Jasper. So it was very much a case of just hunker down for 5, 6 years or whatever it needed to be. But the dream and the goal and the vision was that this thing was going to be like the biggest race in South Africa, the biggest race, definitely one of the, we'd seen the trajectory of the Cape Epic. So it was very much like just believe and work towards that. And it took us a lot longer than we expected to get sponsors to really invest in the race. And there were some critical moments where, like, probably, we started 2014, 2017, I think it was, the end of 2017, we got a mail from Salomon to say, like, we love what you're doing, we want to be involved. And, like, to have Salomon come to you and say,
Why do you think they did?
Well, we'd got to that point where, we'd knocked down the door almost.
Yeah.
And we were, like, if I go back to the first year, that was our first event, that we'd ever done. It was raw. We got through by the skin of our teeth. And if you ask me now, like, would I go back and do it again? I would say no, because it was utterly terrifying.
So many people say yes, they would do it all over again.
No,
So why did you keep going?
Because we decided, like, we were all invested. We knew what we could do eventually, but we had to learn the lessons. We had to pay the school fees effectively to get to that point. And I think what we did really well was we didn't take money out of the race, and we put it back in to grow the experience every year. We reinvested heavily, and any sponsorship money went straight into the race, and we just kept raising the experience, and we acted bigger than we were. There were 2 of us, and then after 2-3 years, we got Sue came on board, and she was critical because she came from a road running background and understood a lot of the planning, the pre-planning, the preparation stuff that we weren't that clued up on.
Yep.
So yeah, it was. But if I go back to that first year, I mean, I had to run back onto the route to mark while the runners were out there because we just ran out of time. But we had 36 runners in the 100K and 17 finished. And
more than 30%.
Yeah, and that was it. It started.
So you just kept going because you knew what the potential could be. Yeah. I think a lot of people underestimate the amount of hard work that is involved in building something. Yeah. I've chatted with Dylan about this. I've chatted with so many people about, like, you think you're going to be successful in year one. You really need 3 years. Yeah. And building this community of early stage founders and entrepreneurs, and like, there's no better way to learn it than to learn it, right? Like, you gotta get your feet wet, your hands dirty, whatever the saying is, and kind of fail and succeed on your own. So why do you think the brands kept coming back, right? So the shoe brands are definitely critical in the support of, like, how are you providing value to those shoe brands that kept them coming back, and you started with Ultra, you worked with Solomon, now you're with Adidas Terex. So clearly something is working. Maybe there are race directors listening that are wanting to know, like, why are they continuing to come back?
I think we focused very heavily on being connected to the community. So at the same time that we started UTCT, we started a community kind of running group called Tuesday Trails, and that allowed us to be part of the community and not kind of above it,
dipping in when it's useful.
Exactly. And when it came down to volunteers or anything, I knew people, and I knew how much value that they provided, and we obviously had established friendships and relationships with a lot of these people. So I think if I go to the sponsorship side, is they, the race definitely has a massive and a strong community base and of support and following. Like, I see so many similarities between UTCT and Western States, and that's why I love coming back here and seeing like what is happening, how they're doing it, because they've had 50 years, we've only had 10. But I want to have this idea of Scott Jurek and Hal Corner at an aid station. I want the guy who won UTCT 3 times or 6 times or whatever to be back at an aid station and working and being part of it. So I think the sponsorship thing for us was we provided that connection to community, and it wasn't just a once-off, here's the race, boom, quickly over and done with. So we did that. I think Cape Town is it's one of the most popular tourist destinations in the world. Table Mountain is iconic. So we had all of those pieces, but every year the race, we kept investing, and one of the pieces, we were very lucky to work with Red Bull very early on. And one of the key lessons that they taught us was, you have to build it. You have to show that, it had changed from where you could just go to a brand and say, hey, this is what I want to do. Will you give me money? To, you have to show them this is what we're doing. So that's why we invested in the race. We grew the experience, and it was almost a case that they came to us to say, hey, we want to be part of this. We want to help you grow this experience. And even now, in the last 2 or 3 years, I've had conversations with partners where I've gone, look, like, we don't want to raise the price of the event to penalize the runner because it's already expensive. We want you to invest in what we do so we can grow the experience for the community, for the runner. And ultimately, then we're all more successful in this whole endeavor, really. So, yeah, it's been a buy-in, I think, from partners, yeah.
We were talking the other day about how the mark of success, quote unquote, is having a bank as the sponsor.
Yeah.
Talk to me about what's different in South Africa versus what you've seen here in the States in terms of like the types of brands that are interested. Why is it so common for a bank to be involved? I definitely don't see that here in the US. I see some regional involvement from car dealerships and like local credit unions, but it's definitely not. It's not common. It's not more often than not.
Yeah, like I mentioned, so back home, it's almost like a status is when your event gets to a certain level, a bank will come in and invest and be part of it. And I think it's what having spoken to people in the kind of sponsorship game, what's really nice is they're not a trail brand. So they're looking for different ways to market themselves, to be part of the community, to elevate the experience for the runner, and to be, like we often say, to be proudly South African. We've a history of being ashamed of ourselves, so we try and push this narrative of we want to be proudly South African, we're doing good things, so I think I'm not sure why necessarily like a race like Western States doesn't have that endemic or non-endemic sponsor coming to them and saying, listen, like, it's amazing what you do, like.
They have a car dealership that's based out of Auburn. I think it's a Subaru dealer in Auburn. They get a race entry and they love being a part of it.
Yeah. But like, we've had the local car dealership, but now like we want to talk to Ford South Africa or Toyota South Africa because we want the race to be not only a national one, but an international one. Like I think being in the bottom of South Africa, we constantly look towards America and Europe and to see what's happening and how things are working. And we do have it's a small market, but I think the race definitely punches above its weight, and it has attracted elite runners from all over. And I think it's certainly not everybody's. Well, I think it's a lot of people's bucket list race. So walking around the village, meeting people, a lot of them say like, "Yo, I would love to come and do UTCT one day," and that obviously makes me feel very proud. And I think for a bank, what they're doing is they're investing in helping us grow the event to be more than, I guess, than like I often say is. Like a Hoka or a Terex, they can give you cash, but ultimately you also need a lot of VIK. The shoes, the race shirt, those are expensive items. So they're covering those items, whereas the bank, all they've got is money, and that's at the end of the day, you need money to build something.
Yeah. Speaking of money, how do you think about prize purses and attracting a competitive field?
Yeah, all in. It's been a constant narrative in South African sport because of our disparity between rich and poor, and the fact that a lot of our runners are people who come from very disadvantaged backgrounds. I almost compare a lot of the runners to boxers. They're fighting their way out, and this is their opportunity. So we've always tried to push for prize purses. We've got I'd love to say we could provide more, and we are looking at trying to raise that, but I'm definitely been a strong proponent. I think elite athletes work so hard, they don't get the credits that they deserve, and I'm a strong believer that prize money is a way for the sport to not only go forward, but to give those elite runners credit for the work that they do, because I don't believe they get enough, and I don't think they get paid enough either.
I think there's a lot of talk lately about the money in road versus the money in trail. We saw Broken Arrow this past weekend, where they have the second largest prize purse of any trail race, and two Kenyans were first and second at the 46K.
23.
23K, yeah. And a Moroccan won the 46K. Correct?
No, he won the Moroccan won the 26, and the two Kenyan guys were second and third, and then Joyce won the 23 as well.
Right. So we're drawing from Africa here in California. You told me about how brutal the travel was.
Yeah.
But they're coming here because that prize purse is so substantial. I think it's a way to draw athletes and competitors from roads where the prize purses are six figures or higher for first place. I believe the total prize purse was 60K here at Broken Arrow. Having athletes from Northern Africa compete, or Central Africa compete in South Africa must be a point of pride and a focus for you.
Yeah.
How do you think about that aspect of it, and how do you focus on drawing that competitive field? Is it related? Is the prize purse number one? Is it the exposure through a live stream, like what's happening at Western States? How do you think about building that field, and does that lead to more amateurs joining as well?
Yeah, definitely. So I've always spent quite a long time locally speaking to runners managers to attract them to come run UTCT. I mean, every year we kind of contact the top 10, top 20 at Comrades to say, hey guys, there's an opportunity. It's your down season. Come have a look, come have a try. Some run the 55, some run the 100K. And it's always an eye opener. And we've had one of our top, the last South African actually to win the race was a Comrades gold medalist, Prodigal Kamala. He won 2 years in a row in 2016 and 17. And then, we've had Bong Musa Mtembu, who's also won Comrades 3 or 4 times. Kind of seen as, if you win Comrades, you're a national treasure almost. And in those teams and in those managements, they have connections to the Kenyan runners and the Moroccan runners and stuff like that.
Road runners or trail?
Yeah. Most of them is road. And that is where their bread and butter is, and I can't fault that.
Because of money.
Because of money, yeah.
And pride and
I mean, if you go to Kenya, people are running a marathon. Right. That's the gold standard. When you ask them, you run 50Ks, they're like, why?
In training, maybe.
Yeah, in training, possibly. But, having kind of been there a while now, on knocking on that door, I see, what Golden Trail Series has done. It's obviously through brands, they're starting to, because the pool of talent is incredibly large, and there's only 5 or 6 guys who are really going to hit that top step in those world marathons. So I think it's just a case of, when the prize money gets to a point that it's noticeable, those runners will then start to kind of go, okay, well, I've tried marathon, I'm a 2:15 or 2:10 or maybe a 2:08 or whatever, and I'm not going to get to that top step, so I'm going to give it a try outside of that. And I think that's what's happened with, Elazine, Patrick, and Joyce and the other guys in the Golden Trail. And I think, like, if you look at triathlon, from what I've seen there, it's like you develop in your Olympic distance, and then you go on towards your longer, your Ironman distance and stuff like that. So I think it's just a matter of time before we start really attracting that talent. And I don't think our prize money is quite enough yet. But when you bring up, the amount that was at Golden Trail, at Broken Arrow, then it's a number, and it's a consistent number because they're racing in a series around the world. So, yeah, I don't know how long it will take, but I do believe in the next 10 years we're going to start seeing a lot more. And hopefully you'll see a Kenyan standing on the start line at Western States.
If you want to go deeper into the conversations we're having here, subscribe to the Long Run Labs Substack at longrunlabs.substack.com. We share insights, stories, and tools to help you go further in running, business, and life. Are you investing in your health the way you invest in your business or in your career? That's where Eternal comes in. Eternal is a performance health company built for high performers like you. Their performance physical in New York City and San Francisco combines metabolic testing, mobility screens, and over 70 blood biomarkers to give you personalized insights for endurance and long-term health. Not nearby? Their foundations plan is expanding nationwide, starting with a blood panel and delivering a custom plan for your nutrition, supplements, and training, guided by sport-informed experts. Check out eternal.co and use code LRL for 10% off your plan. That's eternal.co. And make sure to check out our Long Run Labs episode with CEO Alex Mather and a conversation with their lead dietitian, Kelsey Bailey, over on For the Long Run. There's a lot of discussion around, we haven't seen the best trail runners. Like, people say, oh, this is the GOAT, greatest of all time.
Yeah.
And they're generally referring to a trio of Jim, Courtney, and Killian.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the pushback on that is, like, we haven't seen the Africans take a stab at these races.
Yeah.
You think there are a bunch of needles in the haystack?
That
they're focused on road that we don't know what their potential is?
Yeah. I do think that there's certainly untapped potential because we just don't know. I was chatting with Robbie Britton yesterday, and he was saying, with the miler distance, there's so many unknowns, like, I think Western States would be more in their quiver, or their, because it's a fast runnable.
Even with this uphill start like that?
Yeah. I mean, look at Patrick and Philemon, that, it's just a case of, okay, cool, well, that's what we do.
Right.
But I do think it's going to take time, and it'll certainly take a lot longer for, say, a UTMB win, because of the nature of running through the night and all the technical pieces. Like, if you watch Jim's progression, I thought that was really interesting, and the way he went to France and kind of involved himself in the culture and lived there, because he realized that his understanding of that wasn't going to win him the race. Right. So, yeah, it's one of those things where we've seen the domination come in athletics across track in the distances from 800 all the way to the marathon. So why shouldn't it be that eventually it's going to be competitive? But I do believe that, like, the way the sport is, it will be much more open than say a marathon at the moment, where you're kind of almost going, okay, well, those guys are going to win. Right.
Yeah, particularly a marathon major.
Yeah.
We talked the other day about the pride that you have in the race. Somebody has tried to acquire it, definitely once, maybe a couple of times, and you've turned that down.
Yep.
Tell me more.
Yes, yeah, we've been approached a couple of times, and Nick, my original partner in the race and the founder, he stepped away a couple of years ago, and that was purely for career reasons. He kind of reached the end of the ability to do both, and we've always been very kind of cognizant of the fact that the race feels like we owe so much to the community and the way they've embraced it and supported us. We have 650 volunteers, but it's not just the volunteers, everybody gets crewed. It feels very similar to States in a way that, you've only got X amount of runners, but the whole of the community seems to come out and support the race and be part of it. So it always felt, when I had those conversations with myself, it was like, I don't know if I could, do that. And then also I feel incredibly privileged to be in this position that I am in, and I almost feel like
it's your torch to bear.
Yeah, and I'm, it's a certainly, like, at times an overwhelming responsibility, but I do feel like this is my kind of
contribution.
Yeah, my contribution, and it's almost like my gift or my whatever it is in life that you call that my calling.
Yeah.
And I'm very proud of it, and I don't want to step away, and I don't want to have a situation where somebody says, okay, well, you can be race director for 3 more years and then off you go, thanks. So at the moment, no, I don't think we would consider even looking at other directions. I mean, we're part of the World Trail Majors now, which is, it's in its infancy. It's not perfect, but it certainly allows us to be connected to other communities around the world where we want to kind of push the narrative or be part of this community that isn't, all about focused on the money and that situation. So, hopefully for a long time I won't go anywhere.
You said the word community probably 30 times so far.
Yep.
It's clear it's important to you. What does it mean to you?
Like I said, I feel a sense of responsibility. I was lucky in that I was given the experience through various, through sports and doing things, that I learned how to build a community, how to find the people within the community that would strengthen the community, because I don't want it to all be about me. I think very often we have, if you hear people talking, it's I, me kind of situation. I think it's so much about we, because you can't do these things alone. If you think that you're going to be able to do it by yourself, you're going to fail. And I feel so indebted, because of the success of the race, to all of those people who've entered the race, who've supported us, who've volunteered, who've route marked way into the night and early mornings, and who've sacrificed time because they see a greater piece in what we're doing, and they've believed in what we're doing. So, I keep going back to that word community, because, like I said, I just don't think we could do it without them.
What does running do for you? Like, we're here at the best week in trail running in North America, and there were 4 or 5 races, Broken Arrow, there's Western States, and we see incredible stories from the front of the pack to the very last finisher at Golden Hour, where people see something in themselves upon completing the distance that maybe they're more powerful than they ever could have imagined. And they can do much more than they ever thought possible. And so for me, I love seeing people who don't consider themselves runners, or who aren't traditionally, like we heard Tommy Runs talk about this. He's like, he joked, but he was like, my community runs in intervals over fences, right? Like that's how that's how his friends growing up ran, away from things. Yeah. And to see what it's done to his life, to see what it's done to my life, and so many people, and the ability to inspire us to believe in ourselves much more. Like, I quit my job a few weeks ago, and I have the belief that I can do this thing, and the way I put food on my table is now related to running. Yeah. And 5 years ago, I don't think I ever could have done that, or had even the belief that I could figure it out, let alone like actually do it. Yeah. What does it mean to you? What is so powerful for you about running?
I think you use that word inspire, and I think that for me is such a strong part of it. The average Joe is inspired by the elite runner, but we are just as much inspired by the person who comes in that golden hour. And I think, running, especially back home, is a complete leveler. So you can be the CEO of a company, and you can be, the guy washing dishes in a restaurant. But if you've paid your entry to be at that race and you're on the start line,
you're equal.
You're equal. And I think that's a very inspiring piece of, the narrative. And I don't see that CEO looking down on the guys washing the dishes in that situation.
It's totally irrelevant.
It's totally irrelevant, and
just humans.
You're just humans. You're just out there doing your...
And the fact that you're a CEO doesn't give you an advantage.
It doesn't give you an advantage. No, and you can't buy a faster bike or anything like that. And it's just, a pair of shoes, a pack, and away you go. Sometimes not even a pack, but I love the basic element of running and what it kind of brings to humans. And I we've done Tuesday Trails for 11 years, and I run in one of the groups that's, it's nice, easy, comfortable pace. But for some people in the group, it's a challenge, and it's a tempo session, and they're like, oh my God, I'm gonna die, And I just say to them, like, just keep coming, and in 3 weeks, 4 weeks time, that tempo pace is going to feel comfortable. You're going to relax. You're going to be much more, and you see the wheel turn, and then a couple of years later, they're running the 100K, and what that's done for them and how I've managed to see that, I certainly don't feel like I've done anything to help it. It's just that we
facilitated
it. Yeah, it's there, but you've got to do it yourself. Running is like I tell my kid Jasper, I say, it's hard, it's uncomfortable, but there's something in it that is addictive or inspiring or whatever it is, but it keeps us coming back. And I'm completely in love with that. And I struggled at Broken Arrow. I had a really rough race. The altitude was terrible, and it was not what I would deem as like one of my highlight fun races. But on reflection, I'm like, I probably needed that. I needed to be reminded that it's not always going to be high fives and hashtags.
High fives and hashtags.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree. I did a 50K. Ironically, I'm wearing the shirt today, Black Canyon, in February, and it was at a period of my life when I needed to be kicked around a little bit and live in the suck for a little bit of time. And I didn't bring music. I, for some reason, didn't run with anyone, and it was like 5.5 hours of like I'm so present. And the only thing that I am thinking about is like, don't fall.
Yeah.
And that was it. Like I didn't think about very much.
Wow.
And it was a time when, like I said, like I needed that.
Yeah.
I was starting to think about changing careers after 10 years. That was really the main thing that was going on in my mind, actually. And I wasn't sure how to progress forward at that time. And running has this, primal, like the only thing to do is to progress forward. And it shows you that like, when you don't know what to do, just keep moving forward. And so that's what I did for, 40,000 steps on that day, that I just kept moving forward. And there's such beauty in, I didn't know I was going to get that lesson that day, but upon reflection, like you said, like that's exactly what I needed. And I am grateful that I forgot my shocks, headphones, because it afforded me the opportunity to just live in that and to truly experience. So like, holy shit, this is when things fell apart at mile 19, because I had been going downhill for the whole time. I was like, my quads are present, and so am I.
No, that's, exactly as you say. It's, some days you just need those lessons. And, you probably, having gone through, developing your podcast, getting to the point of like, okay, I can do this by myself, and then doing it, you've sacrificed so much to get to that point. And sometimes we sacrifice our own running in the background and our health and our focus, but then the running will kind of steer you back to like, okay, hang on, if I want to do this, I've actually got to put some time in. And I think that was the lesson as well.
For sure. Yeah, right. Well, the joke is that people who work in running run less than they did before they didn't work in running.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I want to know how you think about tourism and airline partnerships and travel partnerships and sponsorships, to bring it back to UTCT.
Yeah.
What's the percentage of people that travel to the race?
So we had 650 flying into Cape Town out of 2,800. So I think that's 30%.
So 650 flew into Cape Town.
Yeah.
Okay, so
international flights.
You assume that each of those runners is potentially there with another, like 1.5 people on average.
Yeah.
So they're spending $3,000 US dollars on that times 600.
Yeah.
It's a lot of money that is being spent on tourism and travel.
Very, very.
1.8. I don't know, whatever my math. Yeah. I'm not a math guy. How do you think about the economic impact on that, and what do you do to leverage it?
So, a lot of our economy is based, especially in the Western Cape, is based on that international traveler. They will come to Cape Town, and what we've done is with we've got stats and numbers from the local tourism board. So if an international flies into Cape Town, and obviously we take the stats of like how many people will travel with you, where will you stay?
What is the average number of people that...
So a runner will come and they will generally bring 2 with them for internationally. Okay. Then they will always spend, like a local traveler will spend 3 to 5 days, whereas an international will spend 7 to 10. And you can just imagine the spend each day. A local traveler will spend, 1,500 Rand versus an international will spend double that. So for us, that international traveler is vital, and it's enabled us to become a partner with the city of Cape Town. Cape Town is an events capital. It has the most events in Africa, but that piece of having the international traveler there is something that we are obviously very aware of and cognizant, and we've worked out the numbers and what that gives us. But it doesn't necessarily benefit the race. It benefits the local economy. It puts people in restaurants. It puts people in hotels, and that's where the spillover has been amazing to see. Businesses have grown up around the race. Podcasters have grown up around the race. So it's really like that kind of ripple effect. That's why I keep going back to this ecosystem or this community around it. And I think it's really a source of pride. And I think it's one of the defining factors of coming to the race as an international is you're struck by how welcoming and how friendly South Africans are. Obviously, we down in the bottom of Africa, and we love having tourists there, but there is a genuine warmth that is something that people are not used to. If you're on the trail or if you're looking for someone to take you onto the trails, I can find someone. Like any time of the day, for any type of runner, they just have to reach out to me and say, hey, I want to go for a 3-hour run on the course. This is where I want to start. This is where I want to finish. I'll go, give me half an hour. I'll find someone to, and they'll take you to the local bakery and get a coffee before, after the run, that type of thing. So that tourism element and that internationalness of UTCT and Cape Town is critical to the whole experience, yeah.
Is there a way to continue to add to that ripple effect that brings it back to the race, that you're creating a pipeline of travel and hotels and flights and restaurants and whatnot? Is the draw enough? Is the ripple effect enough? Or are you looking to, do you think about sponsorships from a travel and tourism standpoint?
Yeah, I think certainly as an event, it would help us if we had, let's say, an international flight partner or things like that to help. We often help elites fly to Cape Town because it's an expensive flight, and I know they don't get a lot of money. So, and I would like to put on the best race. So we negotiate, we chat, we figure out.
But you work with the airlines on that?
No.
Oh, got it.
No, I just work directly with the elites, with the athletes. But eventually, I do hope to, maybe it's Emirates or, but it's never going to be perfect because potentially, runners are flying from Europe, and do you want them to fly via some destination in order to come here? No, potentially. But also a local airline would be great because we have a we have what we call the Trail Fund with UTCT, and that covers a human element and an environmental element. And the human element is a very strong part of it. And what we do is if runners contact us who don't have the means to run UTCT, or it's not only a case of, okay, well, here's an entry. We have to make sure that person can get to Cape Town, because we don't want them to take
stay there.
And stay there. We don't want to take the 48-hour bus ride or a 24-hour bus ride on a Thursday afternoon, arrive on a Friday, sleep in a bus stop, and then expect to run 100 Ks.
Right.
You know,
they're not going to have a good time.
They're not
going to
have a good time.
Well.
Yeah, and it's not fair. You know, so we would like to obviously partner with a local airline as well to help facilitate that and to possibly help tell the story of that. But yeah, you know, there's certainly ways that we can, like you spoke about, that ripple effect, and we're not always looking to monetize it for ourselves, because we do feel like
make it easier for
making it easier. Yeah, I think that's the thing. And like I spoke about, making sure that the race doesn't become too expensive. I think that's a big goal, because going to the partners and saying, look, this is why we're trying to keep the price down, but we want to keep growing the experience, because you can't stand still. I mean, right. I was here in 2022. The difference between 2022 and 2025 is like mind-blowing.
What have you seen?
Well, from Broken Arrow, the numbers at Broken Arrow have grown. The whole experience around Broken Arrow has grown. Then you've got re-rolling into TrailCon. TrailCon was, you know, the who's who of almost
right.
the North American trail scene. It was ridiculous. It was so inspiring, and you know, you could just go up to anyone and say hi, and obviously that's how we met, you know. But then, I know, like we arriving at States Week, which is, you know, such an amazing
wonderful
piece.
Chaos.
Yeah, wonderful chaos. And I love that. I love seeing, you know, how it's grown, but it hasn't lost its core feeling, its core values, its core calling. And I think, like, if we lose our core community in Cape Town and just look towards having travelers, it would be quite an empty experience, because the traveler comes to experience that local element, that difference, you know, whatever it is, that pride. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
One piece of, I had a couple of conversations today about all of the big money that's coming into trail, whether it's with Warner Brothers or other non-endemics that are investing heavily. I was talking with Kevin from Speedland about it. He's like, I assume I can say this, because like their sponsorship with Cocodona is going to either become much more expensive or just simply not possible, because other brands are coming in. If Nike wanted to own everything in running, they could.
Yeah.
How do you think about that as it relates to being a race director, where you can say no to people and you can protect that in some capacity? Yeah. How do you think about something like that?
I think it's very important who and how you work with your partners. Brands are obviously extremely powerful in this landscape that we're talking about. And sometimes it is concerning, because they can push things a different direction. But I think ultimately we've got to kind of control what we can control and allow the brands to do what, you know, because at the end of the day, they're a business too. They've also got to make money to then drive to help pay elites, and hopefully everything, you know, balances out, and that if we, like we often say, if we all grow the pie, the pie gets bigger, as opposed to kind of all trying to look after ourselves. And we've always said, like, grow trail running in South Africa, because if we do that, then there's going to be more people wanting to run races. There's going to be more shoes being bought, you know, and it'll just be a better and a
bigger
more
pie.
Fun. Yeah, a bigger pie. Yeah.
Speaking of pie, did you notice that the bathroom at TrailCon smelled like apple pie?
They must have done something then, because
it's like the best smelling bathroom I've ever been in.
It was very good. Yeah, absolutely.
Stu, this has been a blast. Is there anything that we didn't talk about that you wanted to share with the audience today?
No, just that, you know, I really love, you know, having spent time in America when I was in my 20s, and having raced Western States and had such an amazing experience coming back. There is a certain special atmosphere and welcomeness, I don't know quite the right word, but within the American trail scene and the community, and it hasn't lost its roots. if I want to kind of, if I imagine what the roots were and, looking back at the history of states and things like that. So if I can dream or wish one thing, it would be that if I could return, in 3 years' time or 5 years or 10 years, which I definitely will, is that element or that atmosphere hasn't gone. Because I do worry about it. I worry about it at home with UTCT, and I see how this community here is, and if we can hold on to that piece of the sport, but celebrate elites, celebrate our differences, celebrate everything about it, but hold on to that specialness. I think that's where we need to be.
I totally agree. I think we walk a fine line with something like that, and with what Dylan and Sally did yesterday with the Trail Crown Awards was a perfect juxtaposition of past, present, and future, right? The Future Award was won by Anna Gibson.
Yes.
And she came on to say, like, this is fantastic. What an honor. Like, I'm amongst legends.
Yeah.
I hope in 10 years I can live up to and then Hal Kerner's on the stage, and you hear from people like that. You have, all of the legends of the sport, the founders of Western States. We're here with the founders of UTMB, who I'm lucky to chat with in a couple hours here. And it's this, I watched a photo get taken today with three legends who have won many Cougars in their years at Western States. And like Hella Sidibe was taking the photo or part of taking the photo. And Hella's a Hoka athlete and has a huge audience and he's from Africa as well. And he told me he wants to run Ultra-Trail Cape Town.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he's from Mali, and he is someone that's bringing people into the sport today.
Yeah.
And here he is taking a photo of the three legends from yesterday. And it's just like so cool to see the people who are, and people like Scott Jurek who are still in it and still actively involved. He was in that photo.
Yeah.
And it's quite special because it's really hard to build something that we honor the legacy while building the future. And not to say that there's nothing wrong with or that there isn't room for improvement. There definitely is. Sure, but it's a really wonderful symbiosis.
It's absolutely. I think it's very inspiring that your past runners, I experienced it when I arrived at that aid station with Scott and Hal Corner. I was like,
Mile 92, you think you're blacked out.
I thought I was hallucinating. I was crazy. And I think that, that the fact that they give back and are part of it and embraced new people is completely unique. I don't think other communities and sports have that.
Right.
And I'd love to see that we can hold on to that, because I think that is ultimately where this uniqueness of our sport lies.
Totally.
Yeah.
Stu, this has been a blast. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Got to make it out to UTCT at some point.
You do, yes, you do.
And you got to make it back to Boulder.
I will definitely make a trip to Boulder. Sorry, guys. Thanks very much.
Of course.
It's been an absolute pleasure.
Likewise.
Cheers.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Long Run Labs. If you like this episode, make sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who's building something of their own. We'll be back next Tuesday with more stories at the intersection of endurance and entrepreneurship from the people shaping the outdoor industry in ways big and small. Until then, keep showing up, keep asking questions, and we'll see you out there. The show is produced by Dylan Delaney of Delaney Video LLC, with musical composition by Brian Walters of Single Track Sound, and managed overall by Emily Holland of Wild Poppy Creative.